Namaskar everyone and welcome back to the second session. We will start this session by observing a minute of silence. Om. For this session, we have with us Professor Sampadananda Mishra ji. He is the Director, Center for Human Sciences, Rishihood University. And for his contributions towards Sanskrit, he has received the Maharishi Badrayan Vyas Samman by the then President of India, Pratibha Patil ji, in 2012. And he has also received the Sahitya Academy Bal Puraskar in 2018 for his book on children stories, and it's titled Shanah Shanah. So without much further ado, I will pass on the mic to Sir to take his session.
Namaskar to all of you. So we are dealing with a very tricky subject, translation and culture. It's important. At the same time, there are many issues which we have to deal with. One of the issues which I will be covering today is the untranslatable nature of languages, and will give you examples from Sanskrit and show you the design of this language, and then how intensely this language is untranslatable. Now, yesterday I made a point that Sanskrit is not an object-specific language. You have the object. Every object can have many properties. Many properties. Suppose an object has got, say, 10 different properties or whatever. And every property, to describe every property, you will have a word in Sanskrit. Suppose the object has got 100 properties, you will have 100 different words. Every word is a description, and in fact, Sanskrit doesn't have any word for object. You can analyze. So whatever word you pick up, it will be the description of the property of that object, but not the object itself. The objects can change their form, may perish, but the properties are eternal. They remain. And Sanskrit, right from its inception, deals with the eternal aspects, not the temporal aspects. I'll give you examples, and wherever you have doubt, you can ask me, stop me, ask me. I'll give you examples, and I want to see that you go with clarity, right? Now suppose you have got 100 different properties, 100 different words. Then again, each word will have a root sound. It's connected with a root sound. Here is the root. Here is the property. I use the word P, right? Object, property, then you, word describing the property. So suppose we put P here, and then here we have the word. P means the property, and then every property is described by a particular word, and then every word has a root sound. R, I put R. And again you go, every root sound has many meanings. I call it as experiences. One single root sound can sometimes have 100 different meanings connected with it. That's why the tradition says dhatavah anekarthaka. Anekarthaka. This is one approach from object to experience. You can also reverse the whole process, look at the experience, and then see how it moves. Then you will understand the interconnectedness of everything. It's a language designed in such a manner that at each step it leads you towards the interconnectedness of the nature, of the universe, of the cosmos. In that sense, it's a universal language, a cosmic language, a language that connects with the experience. Okay. This is the map that you can keep in mind. Where is the cleaner? Achha, okay. And if you follow this format, then let's look at some examples. And it will not just give you the connection of root sounds and words and experiences all in Sanskrit, but you can connect it with any language in the world. Any language in the world. There are some unique features of this language, which I'll explain you, which you will not find in any language in the world, including the languages directly derived or having a direct connection with Sanskrit. Okay. A very popular example, popular in the sense like I have made it popular through all my lectures and presentations, but this is something which gave me the deeper understanding of how words are derived, how the whole importance of the properties, the root words, root experiences. Sanskrit has a very transparent system of root sounds, very transparent system of root sounds, and a transparent system of the formation of words from the root sounds. So what happens is that whatever the challenges one has, because human consciousness is a growing, evolving consciousness. It doesn't go back, it moves forward. You have new experiences, new things appearing in the world. And to describe that, you need words, you need language. If language is not there, then everything will go into oblivion. That's why very beautifully Dandi says in his Kavya Darsha, idam andhan tamah kritsnam jayat bhuvanat yadi shabdahvayam jyotiraasansaram nadipyate. So, if there was no word, no sound, no language, no speech, speech itself is light. Sound and light, they're well connected. So, if this prakasha was not there, then all the three worlds would have gone into or plunged into a blinding darkness. We would not have the world before us. So this being the significance of the language and speech, So we need to understand like how it evolved. What is the mechanism by which the speech formation takes place? How meanings are attached to the words. And another thing which I forgot to mention here, suppose 5 different objects or 10 different objects, they have the same properties, and it's possible that 5 different objects can have same properties. Suppose generating heat. There can be many objects which generate heat. Heat is the property. Light is the property. So all the different objects which generate heat can be called by one single name. So what happens in Sanskrit, where lies the difficulty, that unless and until you understand this property aspect, very difficult to understand the text where it is there, and the context will remain behind, and then you will not be able to understand or interpret or translate. For example, um, in Ayurveda, there's one place where it says, in such and such disease, eat Brahmani. So it says, eat Brahmani. What will be the usual understanding of this? What do we understand by Brahmani? A Brahmin's wife? Brahmani. But Ayurveda says that if you want to get rid of this disease, और ये बीमारी है और उससे मुक्त होना चाहते हो तो ब्राह्मणी खाओ. So how will you interpret and translate? There are many people who have translated that you have to find out a Brahmin's wife and kill her and then you'll get rid of. What kind of, look at the violence, look at, this is how they thought of. Now there are many herbs, many things which are called Brahmani because they have this property of boosting the immunity. The immunity boosters. They, Brahmi leaves are there. Here Brahmani is used in the sense of dry ginger. Dry ginger. Okay. So unless and until you understand the context and in a particular shastra, in which technical sense, in which particular sense the word is used, taking just a line from somewhere and then describing it. Suppose this verse someone takes out of the Ayurveda text and then presents it, and then it goes viral on WhatsApp University. So it will create a very big issue. That, see, this is what is your culture, this is what is your shastra, this is what is your language. So one has to be very, very careful in the matter of interpretation and translation. This is one. Other thing which I was just discussing outside, more than our understanding of the words, their meanings, what is most important is our Viveka Buddhi. I'll tell you one issue, what happened. You have heard the word Vishwamitra, right? What does it mean? Vishwamitra is a rishi. It's a name of a rishi, but it's a word also in Sanskrit. And every word will have its own meaning. Your name also will have a meaning. So what does the word Vishwamitra mean? Friend of everyone. Okay. So I read an article by a very responsible person who holds a responsible position in Government of India, given much respect, goes to many places giving lectures on Ramayana, Mahabharata, Sanskrit, all over world. He writes one article. I have lots of encounters with so many people. That's what I'm sharing, where lies the problem. We cannot just put the blame on a particular segment, European, Westerner, this or that. There are many people without that Viveka Buddhi, they keep misinterpreting just to create sensation among the people, controversy in the common, and then want to become famous. And eventually, they do a great harm to our tradition, to our culture, to our language, to education, and nothing comes out of it. So, what happened? He is writing innovation in Sanskrit. And what is the innovation? He says, like if you say Vishwamitra, it should have been Vishwamitra. If it is friend of the universe, it should have been Vishwamitra. Why Vishwamitra? So then you cannot also call it Vishwa Amitra. Then the meaning will be he is the enemy of the universe. So look at how Sanskrit is so innovative. Then he interprets V is a prefix which is emphatic, adds some special sense. And then he says Shwa is a dog, Shwana, Mitra is friend. So someone who has a greater affinity, friendship with the dogs, a dog lover, then pulls out some stories from the Mahabharata and the Brahmanas, Vishwamitra's connection with the dog, Vishwamitra eating dog's flesh to justify, and then says that Vishwamitra had a great affinity with the dogs. He moved with the dogs, and when it was necessary, hungry, he didn't find anything. He cooked dog's flesh and then ate. So that is why Vishwamitra is not lover or friend of the world. He is neither enemy, he is a great dog lover. Acceptable? Yes or no? Unanimously? Or some of you still have hesitation? It cannot be acceptable. Then I encounter him. I put a question. That, and then he says that I have asked so many Sanskrit Pandits, show me that I am wrong. That following Panini's principle, I am wrong. Show me. Prove me, I will take back. I said, I am showing it to you. In Panini, there is rule that why Vishwamitra is Vishwamitra, not Vishwamitra. So the simple thing is that when it is the name of a common man, it will be Vishwamitra. When it is the name of a rishi, it will be lengthened. It is Vishwamitra. The same way you have Ashtavakra. You have Ashtavakra or not? You don't say Ashtavakra. Because it is a rishi's name. And then why A is added to a rishi's name, I can discuss sometimes that if that context comes. So in the tradition, there is a rule that if it is a rishi's name, to differentiate it from the common man's name and a rishi's name, there is this principle of lengthening the name, Vishwamitra, right? He didn't agree with that. So I put it in this manner, one question to him. I said, any mix and match is not innovation. In chemistry, you have so many elements. Can you mix and match any element with any element? What will be the result? Explosion or some very disaster situation can happen. And then you have asked me, prove me wrong. By logic, The right can be proved as wrong and wrong can be proved as right. But tell me, what is your intention of doing this? Why do you want to bring this sense to the word Vishwamitra? What is the intention behind it? Then the whole discussion stopped. This is where we really do not apply our own Viveka Buddhi, like why do I do this? What is my intention in proving something in this manner, in a particular manner? You don't gain anything. It doesn't help in an interpretation. Suppose you say that, okay, there is an issue somewhere in a text where Vishwamitra, so if the word Vishwamitra is interpreted in this manner, then that issue will be solved. Okay, I'll accept it. There's some sense. Where is the issue? What is the issue? There's no issue. You are making an issue out of nothing. Similarly, I'll tell you another professor. We're very good friends. Now also we are good friends, but we don't leave each other while encountering with each other. He wrote an article about Hanuman and sent it to me for review. So he said, Man. Man means arrogance, ahankara. And Hanu comes from the root sound Han, to kill. So the one who destroys our ahankara is Hanuman. That's fine. Like one who destroys our ahankara is a higher force, can be a deity, that's all fine. But that cannot be the interpretation of Hanuman in this manner, because their man is not mana. First thing is, the word is mana, not man. In Hindi they say man, but the Sanskrit word is mana. And their Hanuman is the nominative singular form of the base word Hanumat, which is a matu suffix, mat. That one who possesses Hanu, big jaws. So he is called Hanuman. I gave him lots of examples. Even I gave my own interpretation of the word Hanuman based on the root sounds. Nothing. So he wrote to me, oh, it seems that you are a very orthodox person. That was the conclusion from his side. You belong to a orthodox school. So I wrote to him that, look, when I deal with orthodox people, they tell me that, like you belong to some modern school. When I deal with modern people, they say that you belong to some orthodox school. But truly, I don't know whether I belong to orthodoxy or the modern school. Maybe I belong to a school which is not yet manifest. I belong to some future school. But this is how it happens, the interpretations, without understanding the basic structure and design of the language, how the words are formulated, and then how the senses are attached to a particular word, where from these senses come. So, if we want to understand this, we need to understand this whole transparent system of root sound. Now, how the root sounds work, I'll give you example by example. From the word, we will come to the root sounds. From the root sounds, we will come to the seed sounds and the fundamental experiences associated with the seed sounds, which are responsible for the meanings. So that is what I will explain before you. And then I will also touch upon few other unique aspects of Sanskrit language, the design of it, which will give you a clear idea about how languages function and the interconnectedness of Sanskrit with all other languages. So, in India, if you look at, suppose, Vedic age, you say, or pre-Vedic age, right from that time, if you come down, we don't have psychology as a separate subject. Because for us, life is the whole field of education. We're dealing directly with life, every principle of life. We don't segment that this is psychology, this is mathematics, this is biology, this is physics, chemistry. If you want to understand what is, in a true sense, liberalism, true sense, go back to the Gurukul system. The ways our Shastras are created, the way the language is designed, you will understand what amount of freedom you have in the language, in the expression. Just to digress a little, the first freedom you experience in language when you come to Sanskrit. Suppose I give you a sentence in English, like we all are, it's sad that we are speaking in English. Even though we understand many things in our own language, and even though I speak in using some Indian language, most of us we can understand, but still we are forced to use English because even our connection with our own language is so poor that even very simple words in our Indian languages is not understandable by many. In one of the sessions when I was conducting, so a certain group of students, they said, sir, please speak in Hindi. I said, okay. From now onwards, I'll speak in Hindi. Not even a single English word I will use. When I started speaking in Hindi, they said that, like you cannot use, sir, these words. It is too pure and it is too Sanskritized. So this Hindi is not allowed. I said, then you are deciding like what should be my language, what words, then why do I have to speak? You all know everything, so I don't need to speak. So you have problems with the Indian languages. And what is the purity of Indian languages? So far, and it's a day-to-day experience. I have heard one lady saying, मैं तो as far as possible pure हिंदी ही बोलती हूँ. मैं तो as far as possible pure हिंदी ही बोलती हूँ. This is the purity of our language, right? So I come to the system of root sounds and show you how deeply it is connected with our own psychology, our own consciousness. I take this example, I had explained it to a whole group of scholars and it was accepted. It was incorporated into a famous book as examples, 2 examples. And it was my first encounter with such words, 2 words. The first word was the word for doubt. Have you ever experienced doubt? Do you have doubt? Every one of us, we have doubts, right? Can you explain what happens in a doubtful state? You are confused. Then what happens in doubt? But how many times we use the word? I doubt that person. I have certain doubts, sir. Oh, he's such a doubting person. Everything he doubts. But what happens? Actually, if you think about it, what happens in you when you have doubts? Psychological. You are? Okay. Why?
To get an answer. To get a clarity on something.
To get a clarity. So, here is the point that you are having doubt because you do not have clarity. Right? You are seeking clarity. When you have no clarity, so you have confusion, you have all kinds of questions. Because there is no clarity. Right? But does this word doubt explain you that? D-O-U-B-T. This word explain you? How? Lack of clarity. Is it a part of the meaning of doubt? How do you derive this meaning? You derive this meaning when you contemplate on your own experience. But the word is not helping you. The word is not helping you to understand that. Okay. Sanskrit is purely an experiential language. So now in Sanskrit you will have so many words for doubt. I take one word. Sandeha. Sandeha. You have heard this word? Sandeha. This word has two components, sam and deha. The word sam, which is a prefix, upasarga, you have in English one word sum, sum. What does it mean? Total. Okay. It's a pure Sanskrit word actually. Some prefix gives you the sense of totality, togetherness, completeness, right? So some, that's why you say Sanskritam, a total language, a perfect language, well done, well sculpted, superbly crafted, created, right? So these are the senses you have with some. Wherever you find some, this will be the meaning. Perfection, well, superb, togetherness, completion, like samapti, completion, that sangachadvam, go together, move together, in harmony with each other. Now what remains is deha. What does the word deha mean? Yesterday I gave you a little hint that it's called body, right? So if you contemplate on the meaning sam, which means perfect, well, and then deha is body. This is how one European mind will look at it and then interpret the word sandeha, a well-built body, sandhya, good body, right? If you split it like this and then try to derive the meaning, this is what you will find. But in Sanskrit, it doesn't work that way. Now, this word, the way it is designed, that at every step, it allows you to ask a question. Why? This freedom you have, you will never have in any conventional language. That's why I said you cannot ask in an English class why this is called hand, please explain me. Then I'll come to the class tomorrow. Why this is called finger, explain me. No. Why body is called body? No answer. But Sanskrit allows you to ask this question. You are free to ask this question. And it creates that question in you. Like why in Sandeha, Deha doesn't mean body. Deha is actually not body. We refer to body by using the word Deha, but Deha is not body. Deha refers to certain properties of the body. And the same properties you will find in doubt also. See how greatly experiential this language, the design of the language is. Now, to understand, you have to ask this question, why body is called Deha? As I said, that every word has a root sound. Now, the root sound from which the word Deha comes is Dih. Dih. This is the root sound. And you can have thousands and thousands of words derived from a single root sound. That's why when you talk about Panini, who was given a list of approximately 1900 odd root sounds, or approximately 2000 root sounds, because there are some Sutra Dhatus also. So from these 2000, approximately 2000 root sounds, you know how many words you can have? Just a simple calculation, if you know a little bit of grammar, simple calculation, how many Krudanta forms, Tadita forms, and many other, things you take into consideration, the conjugation, declension. You have more than 300 millions of words from these 2000 basic root sounds. More than 300 millions, more than 30 crores words. If you put together the vocabularies of all the languages of the world, it will not match. That's the wealth of vocabulary. And you don't, so then you'll say, like, where is the dictionary then? For all these 300 millions of words. In Sanskrit, dictionaries are redundant. You don't need a dictionary. You just need to understand the root sounds. Then you can understand all other words derived from the root sounds. Because there are certain fundamental experiences associated with each root sound. How it happens, what are the experiences, how do you arrive at those fundamental experiences? This is what we will do with this example. Now, the primary experience associated with the is to gather. Suppose you say gathering, how many different things you can think? Which other words are connected with the gathering? Compiling, piling up, bringing things together. Any number of words you think which are connected with the gathering, they all will come as the meanings of the at the first level. Now suppose we take this meaning as a gathering. Now you all are sitting there, I'm here, we decided to gather something. What should we gather? Say we are gathering chairs or books. Every one of us, we brought some books and then put it here. What is the most immediate physical experience that you see when you gather things? Physically, what it does, what experience it creates? Like you were bringing and then putting things here. There was nothing and suddenly you find 100 things. And still people are bringing and it is growing. It is increasing. So growth is what you see immediately as the most immediate physical experience. That something is growing. And if you turn to Sanskrit dictionary to find out the meaning of the second level you will find to grow. And in the first look, you will be unable to connect to gather with to grow, unless and until you bring your own experience to this. Now, suppose something grows, what is the immediate physical experience you have with growth? Like things have grown here. Huh? So something which has grown, like you all are sitting here, I am here, and something has grown in between. Immediately what it does? So growth blocks, covers. You were on a vacation, you came back and found out that in your seat out, where you sat, and then you had a whole view of your lake, and suddenly a multi-storied building has grown. It has blocked your view. It has covered. So the third layer of meaning that you find here is to cover. The three important layers of meaning, you will find it here, right? To cover. Now, from physical to emotional, sensational, mental, psychological, spiritual, all the different words connected with to cover, to conceal, to hide, okay, to anoint, to plaster, all these will come under the third category. That's how you have plenty of meanings associated with a single root sound, and they are all experiential, right? Now let's try to understand first why body is called deha and whether these meanings they fit. The first meaning is to gather. The property of the body is that it's not a single mold object. It is an assemblage of many elements, many components. You have all the 5 elements. You have the flesh, you have bone, you have marrow, you have sinews. You have so many things. Body is not one single mold object. It's a collection, compilation, or assemblage of so many things. That's why body is called Deha. This is the first layer of meaning. The second layer of meaning is to grow. The body has the property that it grows. We were not of the same size as we were born. It grows. If we eat more, do not take care of our physical exercise and everything, so the size of the body also will grow. We become sthula. Okay. To cover, in a deeper sense, the body is used as a kosha, as a cover to conceal the soul within. The soul uses the body, and I'm using the soul in the sense of Atman, not in the any other sense, right? Don't misinterpret the word soul. So it conceals the Atman within. The body is used by the Atman for its own presence, for its own living, right? So this is why the body is called Deha. These are the properties because of which you have to call the body as Deha. Is it clear? Now, when you contemplate on the different layers of the meanings of the root sounds, in the course of evolution of a language, certain meanings are lost, certain meanings become prominent, and then they get carry forward. Okay, they carry forward that meaning in the language. So in the case of Dihi, to gather and to cover became the most prominent meaning. Now here, when you are connecting it with Sandeha, Sandeha means perfect covering. When your consciousness, your mental psychological state is well clouded, when the consciousness is clouded, there's no clarity. So Sandeha cannot be translated as a doubt. You have to interpret it, is that a clouded consciousness? Like in a clouded sky, you cannot see the sun. The same way, in a clouded consciousness, you don't see the reality, you don't see the truth. You start, where is the light? What is the truth? What is the reality? The reality is concealed from you because of the clouding of consciousness. Achhadita Chetana. Now you know the reason of why doubt arises. And there are many processes by which you can clear that clouding through meditation, through yoga, through various processes. By following a certain discipline, you can clear that clouding and then become free from all doubts. Then a stage will come, and the same thing happened to Arjuna. His consciousness became so clouded that he didn't understand what was happening with him. And towards the end, what he says, Smrtir Labdha, I gained back the memory of myself. Gata Sandeha, that all doubts, all confusions are vanished because of that jnanam which has been given to him. The light has entered into him. It has cleared the clouding. So he becomes free, he becomes Gata Sandeha. He gains back the real memory of himself. That's what happens. And therefore, Patanjali in his Mahabhashya says, Eka Shabda, just a single word, Samyak jnata, perfectly known and understood. Suprayukta, used consciously with awareness. Swarge loke cha kamadhuk bhavati. It yields much result here and hereafter. So that's the beauty of this language, that if you catch hold of one single word and then try to go deep into the very spirit of that word, you will understand, it will give you lots of clarity. So that is why Sanskrit has much role to play in refining and transforming our consciousness at each level, whether it is the physical level, emotional level, psychological level. It purifies, refines. It is in that sense, it's a very refining language, a refined language, Sanskrit. So I gave you one example to explain you the root sound and how dhatavah anekarthaka. What remains more, to take you a little more deep, you can even ask why dih came to mean all these things. What is the significance of the sound the? What is the significance of the sound e? What is the significance of the sound ha? You have a whole gamut of literature based on the experiences that our ancient seers and sages had with the sounds. You have a whole gamut of literature which explains you the meanings of each vowel and each consonant. Turn to Tantra, you will find Matrika Vijnanam, the science of all the Matrikas. Matrikas means these letters are called Matrikas. They are little mothers because each sound has a certain creative force to create. A word can create the world. You have Tantra Abhidhana. Abhidhana refers to a lexicon. Very well defined meanings of vowels and consonants. You have a whole gamut of Ekakshara Kosha. Ekakshara Kosha, a monosyllabic, the lexicon of monosyllabic sounds. Around 32 Ekakshara Koshas you have, or even more. Where you'll find what does mean. If you simply contemplate on the sound every kosha you go, Ekakshara Kosha, Tantra Abhidhana, you turn to Matrika Vijnanam, the highest status is given to a. The Tantra will say Akara Shiva, Akara Vishnu, Akara Parameshwara. In the Gita, Krishna says Aksharanam Akarosmi. Sri Aurobindo, he gave us a new philology, completely new philological theory he has given to us. And if you want to understand what exactly is the untranslatable nature of a language, turn to Sri Aurobindo, read his texts, read his interpretations, you will understand what depth he has explained the minute details of the origin of language, and then how he has implemented it in his own interpretation of the Veda, of the Upanishad, of the Gita, of Ramayana, of Mahabharata. During his time when he was in Baroda, just to give you a little digression, one anecdote, like Manamathnath Datta, M.N. Datta's Mahabharata translation was very famous all over in the European world. He was perhaps the first translator of the Mahabharata. So he went to show it to Sri Aurobindo in Baroda. He placed before him his translation, and after that, when they were discussing, so Sri Aurobindo showed portions of his translation of Ramayana and Mahabharata. And it is on record, Manmathnath Datta said, had I known about your translation, I would not have dared to translate Ramayana and Mahabharata. And my translations look so childish before yours. Why? Because he followed a new way of interpreting. He never called it as translations, he called it as interpretations. And his interpretations are based on this theory of root sound. He revived almost like um, Yaskacharya's whole idea of akhyata, dhatu. He revived it and then presented it in a new manner. Okay. So Sri Aurobindo, in his notes on philology, he gives you a list of meanings, the fundamental meanings of vowels and consonants. Where he says, he reduces, like suppose you find 100 different meanings in Ekakshara koshas attached to the sound A. Sri Aurobindo reduces all these things into one single meaning, the most fundamental experience. He says, A refers to absolute state of existence. What you call absolute state, so whether it is Shiva, Vishnu, Durga, Shakti, Parameshwara, anything highest, anything absolute, that's the meaning of A. Then he says the sound E refers to the relative state of existence. And I'll explain what happens and how beautifully it is in sync with Panini. He says U is the pervasive state of existence. Ru are the vibrant state of existence. And then he goes on. All the vowels and consonants. He has reduced all the Ekakshara kosas, Tantra, Abhidhana, everything into these fundamental meanings. Right? So when you say A is the absolute state of existence where there is no movement. All the long vowels, Sri Aurobindo doesn't deal with the meanings of long vowels. It's simple, like Panini. He doesn't deal with long vowels. He doesn't, Maheshwar Sutra will not say A. He'll say A. All the variations are understood there, right? Sri Aurobindo also does the same way. He doesn't explain what does A mean. But what is A mean? Then you follow the principles. A, what does the long vowels do? Suppose there is a certain energy or force associated with the short vowel. The long vowels, they draw that energy and expand it, blow it, manifest it. So the long vowels are they carry the force of manifestation, manifesting the sound. So when you say ah, it is manifesting and drawing the energy of absolute and making it manifest. So has the sense of extending. We say akasha. It's all expansion. Ananda. There is a continuity, but not disconnected continuity. It is absolutely. So you say balyat, samantat. Spreading, extending, expanding. Then you have E. E is the relative state of existence. What happens when the absolute moves itself to become this creation? He follows a mechanism of limitation, concentration. Because he's so vast, so like it's infinite, that if he can become anything. And this whole process of coming into the relative world, it begins with his wish. If it doesn't wish, that's why the wish in Sanskrit, the ichha, begins with the E. Ichha belongs to the relative. If there is no ichha, no relative world will be there. Ichha. And when that E, small e, ichha, is intensified, it becomes the ruling power, Isha, Ishvara. E, intensified, prolonged, strengthened, expanded, the long vowel, becomes a Ishvara Shakti, the ruling power. When Ichha intensifies, it becomes the ruling power. Then U is the pervasive existence. Meaning, suppose I'll give you a very understandable example. So I'm in a very new town. I don't know anyone. I've just landed. Now I wish to occupy a space. That wish is at the E level. I'm wondering, seeking to occupy a space. U is that I have found a home. I have rented it. I have taken, I have occupied. So that's the U level, that you occupy the space. I have occupied the space. I have taken a house on rent, but I have not yet active. I am not yet active. I have not yet become active. So when I become active, that is the real state of existence, vibrant state of existence. Okay, that's why in U, it gives a kind of, like I have occupied, it gives a sense of security, it gives a sense of settlement. So you have bhumi, bhu, to become, to happen, like it has happened. Then ru is a vibrant state of existence. If you contemplate on the root sound, the bru, bharana, that it sustains you, it fills you, it makes you vibrant. So the sound ra is also a fiery sound, very vibrant sound, very powerful sound. Ra, Agni Tattva. That's why when you do the chakra purification mantra, it belongs to the Manipura chakra. So you say Ram, Agni Tattva, Manipura chakra, right? Om Ram, you say. So this is how, if you look at even the arrangement of root sounds in Sanskrit given by Panini, you can very well link with these different states of existence what Sri Aurobindo says. Okay. So I'm just writing a book which is ready, where I explain all these different sounds and with examples, and then how it operates, how we have different words and the meanings which are coming up. So that will give more clarity when it is published. But for now, that every seed sound is connected with ranges of experiences. Those experiences are responsible for the meanings that you have for the words derived from that root sound. For example, take the sound the as the seed sound, as you find it in the Varnamala, the. Wherever you find the word the fundamental experience associated with the is a force which splits, which divides, which separates. You have the word dvara, you have the word dvi, you have the word dana. Take any example. In Dvandva, in English you have divide, duality, division, duet. So the means it splits. You can ask even Deva, even Daitya, they are all having the. But there are two different forces. When you say Daitya, it's the children of Diti. Diti means a divided consciousness. Aditi is the unity of consciousness. Aditi, no division. Diti, so that's why Aditi's children are called Aditya, the Devas, because they carry always the unity of consciousness, oneness, equanimity. These are the divine qualities. That's why they are called Devas, Adityas. But Daityas, they belong to the divided consciousness. Their whole temperament is to divide. They enjoy dividing things. So division, creating problem by dividing, is the domain of Daityas. Okay. But Devas, this is also coming from the. Now it comes from the root sound div, means to shine. So it is so penetrating a light that it's, It penetrates into the darkness and splits the darkness or removes the darkness. That's why Deva, the power of a Deva is such that it simply penetrates into the world of darkness and removes it. So it's a force, the, as its fundamental experience, has the force which will enter and split, remove. And any language in the world, you see, you can compare the sound the, take all the different words beginning with the, and then you'll find this. I'll give you one more example. You have for place, you call, what is place in Sanskrit or Hindi or sthana, sthana. Okay. Why it is called sthana? Why a place is called sthana?
Because place doesn't move. You can't say, oh, like this year Delhi is shifting somewhere else.
It's fixed, immobile. Sthira, sthanu, a pillar is called sthanu. Sthiti, sthairyam, pratishtha, astha, sthapana, sanstha, pratisthana, anusthana. If you take all the words derived from stha, the root sense, the root experience is a state of fixity, immobile, it doesn't move. Okay. Now, any word derived from stha will give you some sense connected with fixity, rigidity, obstinacy, immobility. This idea of immobility also leads to the idea of strong. You say that, oh, it is so heavy, so strong that I can't move it. I cannot move it. So the idea of strength, stha also means strength, right? Sthula is so heavy that becomes difficult for the person to move. It makes it settle. Now, if you're familiar with English, yes, of course you all are, pick up any word in English beginning with st or having st in the middle or at the end. Stop, stand, station, stagnant, still, steel, stupid, steward, sturdy, establishment, exist, obstinacy. Any word having st will give you the sense of fixity, immobility. Huh?
Stand. Instant. Instant. But there is also pause.
Fast.
Fast. Fast. So fast is like there is a opposite. In the opposite of it, I'll tell you one more principle. Like in a root sound, you can have
Most opposite sense also as a part of it because it is experiential. So your experience is not complete. Your experience of darkness is incomplete if you have not experienced light. So in the Veda, the word Usha, Ushas, means both light and darkness. You can find so many mantras which refers to Usha as darkness also and Usha as dawn also. You have both the experiences associated here. So we have to dive deep and then find out the finer nuances in the words and the meanings. And then you will see that somewhere it will be connected with this fundamental sense of immobility. When you say start, start is also movement. It is not static. But the state before starting is a static state. If there is no static state, you cannot start. You start from a static state. While moving, you don't say that I'm starting from here again. You have to stop and then start.
sthiti, the strangers. We have to try to explain it and try to interpret maybe like
strangers, uh, they're seeking for settlement, not yet settled, they roam around. Sthiti. Sthiti is a state which is fixed. Your state. Like this is the sthiti of, say, I'm in a Shanti sthiti. I'm in a peaceful state. I'm in a Ashanta sthiti. I'm in an unpeaceful state. Yeah?
yeah, condition, situation in a state. So you can, if you find
Out the fundamental senses of the root sounds in Sanskrit, you can connect it with other languages and then see how the same principles, same meanings work. Okay. So this is one aspect of the language I told you, that how from the seed sounds, the root sounds are formulated, from the root sounds, the words, and from the words you have the sentences. But what is responsible for the meanings and the different words are the seed sounds which you find in the Varnamala. That is why in our tradition, Varnamala is given much importance, that just contemplate on the Varnamala and you can spend your entire life just studying the Varnamala. There is no end to the information which is there in the Varnamala. Enormous amount of literature you have in Varnamala. Okay. Coming back, our issue is with translation. Translation and culture. There are many aspects when we translate one idea or translate a word. Actually it is the word cannot be translated. For example, like the word sandeha, doubt will be very limited word to explain the real meaning of sandeha. Okay. Similarly, faith will be a very limited word to, explain what does shraddha mean. You can have shraddha as it is, or you can have faith, but you have to understand what exactly shraddha means. Shraddha is not mere faith. If you contemplate again on the root sound, the word shraddha has two components, shrat and dha, right? So dha means, now first contemplate on the root sound dha. Dha means like the is a forceful motion which splits, and then the means which stops, which holds, which grasps, which catches. So dha means to hold on to grasp, to sustain. So that's why you have dhana, dharma, dharana, dhyana, which gives you a stability, a sustainability, which sustains you, to hold on to. To hold on to what? Now, just if you see what exactly the root sense of Shraddha, you will never translate it as faith. Now, hold on to Shrat. What is Shrat? In the classical Sanskrit, Shrat is not used independently. It has lost its usage as an independent word in the classical Sanskrit. But in the Veda, you have its independent existence. Shrat, Te, Dadhami. So you have so many mantras where Shrat is used independently. And Shrat means truth, like Sat. Everywhere in the Veda, the word Shrat is used in the sense of truth. Now, to hold on to truth is Shraddha. What does it mean to hold on to truth? Now, for example, I have an aspiration of realizing the truth. I'm an aspirant, I'm a seeker of the truth. Think of Satyakama, who was a seeker of the truth. He was an aspirant. He aspired to realize the truth. Now, when every part of my being they come forward to collaborate with this aspiration of seeking truth, then I know that I have Shraddha in me. Shraddha is that utmost sincerity in every part of the being to fulfill, collaborate and fulfill the central aspiration for truth and light and knowledge that one has. If one part of my being says yes, collaborates, the other part says no. And it is a day-to-day experience that, okay, such a beautiful workshop, I should go. But like at the same time in college, we have our club, we have our pop, we have our, DJ night today. So it's very difficult. Always we are divided in, should I go here, not, should I do this or not? We remain in a divided consciousness. So as long as we remain in a divided consciousness, there is no Shraddha. When the Gita says, Shraddhavan labhate jnanam, how do you translate this sentence? What is Shraddhavan? You cannot say that someone who has faith gains knowledge. So very superficial, it doesn't lead you to any meaning. And it's not a mere expression, it's a profound expression. Shraddhavan labhate jnanam. So Shraddha is that utmost sincerity in every part of the being. My body wants, my emotion wants, my psychology wants, every part of my being wants, every layer of my mind, it wants that. When that unity, that union in the aspiration is there, that single pointedness is there, that ekagrata is there in every part of my being, then I know that I have Shraddha. Sanskrit words not only give you clarity, but they also help to evaluate yourself whether you are Shraddhavan or not. You have doubt or not. What happens in you? It's directly giving you the self-awareness. So the point is that if we want to truly understand the texts which are handed over to us by our ancient seers and sages for so many thousands of years, we need to understand how they designed the language, what they meant by every root sound, every seed sound, every word, how different meanings were associated with a particular word. We need to explore that. We need to understand that. And then we will be in a position to interpret it, maybe or may not be. Because to find out the intended meaning, another aspect which we usually miss in the translation workshop is the vivaksha. Vivaksha means like what is the intended meaning. There are various principles. If you go to Bhojaraja Sringar Prakasa, if you go to Durghata Vritti of Saranadeva, a grammatical text, they have laid down around 32 principles how to understand the intention of a speaker. Because any written text will create more confusion. Suppose I give you one example. How do you find the intended meaning? Unless it is spoken. You find a sentence written on the board, you eat fruit. How many different meanings it can give? How do you interpret? You eat fruit? Can you gather this meaning from the written text? Very difficult. You eat fruit. You eat fruit. Very difficult to gather what exactly the poet or the author has intended in a sentence. That is why our tradition never gave importance to the written texts. Why these shastras are preserved through the oral tradition, that's the reason. The Udatta, Anudatta, Swarita, that helps, like what intonation, what pitch, at what intensity was speaking, the meaning is retained there. To even the matra level, they were careful in preserving the meaning. You cannot just look at the written text and then explain that, okay, like this is what is meant. That's why the principles are laid down. We must talk about those 32 principles given to us by Sharanadeva in Durghata Vritti and the principles laid down by Bhojaraj in his Sringara Prakasha. Many Alankarikas, Vyakaranas have laid down how to understand the intention of a speaker. That should be made a prominent part of any translation workshop. And then give examples, and then how do you interpret? Kaku is one principle, one way of understanding. Kaku is bhinna kantha dhvani. You change your a little tonal change can change the whole meaning.
I'm just giving you one example.
The text name also?
Huh?
After that,
No, I said Kaku is defined as Bhinna Kanta Dhvani, a tonal change. So, how intonation matters?
Your pitch matters. So it's here lies the challenge. How do you interpret a written text? What principles you should follow while interpreting? And most of the translators, they do not follow these different principles of understanding the true intention of the speaker, and then you have a very distorted form of the interpretation and translation. So these principles we need to bring to the front, and then if we have to design a course on translation, this has to be a prominent part. How do we understand the desired meaning in a sentence with examples? Okay. So if you have any questions, I will address to that.
Saran Durghata Vritti. Durghata Vritti means like very difficult to
Crack. Durghata. And it's actually, see, this time you had a media hype of that Ashtadhyayi, 2500 years puzzle solved. People have not seen, even in our Sanskrit community also, hardly there will be 2% of people who have even heard about the Durghata Vritti of Saranadeva. What Saranadeva has done, has taken 400 sutras of Panini and has reinterpreted by applying the 32 principles to substantiate 4,000 on-Paninian words as Paninian. He says there is nothing like on-Paninian. If you say on-Paninian, I'll say that you have not understood Panini. If you interpret the sutra in this manner, you will have these words as on-Paninian. So follow my way of interpreting it. It falls into Panini's domain. So that's how but Durghata Vritti is not studied. It's not a very popular text. When I wanted to do my PhD on Durghata Vritti, every Vyakarana refused to teach me that. Why? Saranadeva is a Bauddha. That's even some people told me that we will not touch any Buddhist text. That's why it is not a well-read text. But I have gone through the whole text. How beautifully he brings out these principles of how do you interpret a text to avoid many confusions. Similarly, Bhojaraja's Sringar Prakash and Saraswati Kanthavarana, more of Sringar Prakash, is a very helpful text in understanding the vivaksha, the desired meaning. These principles have to be understood and then made prominent. All right.
Words are behaving like a box. You can put the meaning what you want. You don't put the meaning. See, in Sanskrit, every word is
carrying the meaning within it. There's no, if you say putting the meaning into a box, it becomes a conventional language. That happens like hand is hand. I have put the meaning, assigned the meaning to it. Here there is no assignment of meaning. The word, every word is self-explanatory, and every word can explain the whole history of it, is aware of the history of its own. It carries that meaning within it. Sound and sense, they emerge together. Sound, sense, symbol, the three S, they emerge together. That is why Kalidas says, Vagartha viva samprukta. There is an eternal relationship between sound and sense. You cannot separate them. It is there as a part of it, as an integral part of it. There's no separation. So this whole idea of putting the meaning into a box doesn't apply to Sanskrit. Any word you pick up, the word itself will explain you why it stands for a particular idea or particular object. Because it carries that meaning within it.
yeah, you have
Plenty. There are forced interpretations. It doesn't matter, even in ancient time also you will find a lot of forced interpretation. So sometimes, like out of respect, we accept it. But logically you can transcend it, you can reject it, and you can give a good interpretation of it. But you have to very clear, you cannot disrespect the tradition and then impose something new of your own which doesn't align with the truths. So in our parampara, you say like Panini, while giving his new aspect, he never disrespected his Purva Vyakaranas. He paid immense respect to them, then continued with his own technique, what he wanted to give. What is best in others, he takes it and then maps it into his mechanism, his technique. That's how the parampara continues. There was no disrespect. That's why I say, like they will say that, okay, I'm saying this, but this is what is Shakalya's opinion. Vasishta Ganapati Muni, while giving you the new Kama Sutra, new Vivaha Sutra, new Dharma Sutra, he says every time he pays respect to the Purva Dharma Shastrakaras and then said Iti Vasishta. This is what is, because I look at the present stage of evolution of humanity and then I say that, okay, here the reform can come and then this is what is the society at present. This is what has to be followed. Otherwise, in future, in next 100 years, you will face all these problems. But any attempt towards just disrespecting and attacking and then giving forced interpretation, which is happening maximum now, is creating more problem. That attitude, that approach should not be there. This is what we should learn from our ancient seers and sages, how humble and that what humility they carried while taking forward the whole tradition. Without distorting, without disrespecting, because truth matters. That's why Krishna says, Vada pravadatamaham. What is Vada? And whatever happens is just Jalpa and Vitanda. In Vitanda, there is no issue. See, you do not exist. You should not exist. That's all. There's no issue taken into consideration. In Jalpa, okay, there is an issue, but my way of looking at it is the right, you are totally wrong. But in Vada, issue is important. Let's collaborate to find out a solution to the issue. When we adopt to that Vada Parampara, where the problem matters, not who says, and we all collaborate with each other, bringing a solution to the problem. If it is a real problem, first we substantiate that yes, it is a problem. Then we find out solution and contribute positively towards bringing the solution. That's Vada. And when it rises to the spiritual domain, it becomes samvada, which is a silent communication between the Guru and Shishya. What happened between Krishna and Arjuna? What happened between Haridramat Gautam and Satyakam? The samvada. We close. So we close with a few seconds of silence.